All right, since everybody else has seemingly forgot, those in the media and online media alike don't want to discuss this issue, I figured I would. So, the situation in Afghanistan has been deteriorating rather quickly, and it's getting worse and worse by the day. And so, this is from Human Rights Watch, and it gives us a very grim detailing of their current situation and crises. So, children in the provinces, they are only skin and bones now, and I'm afraid this is only going to get worse. The director of an international humanitarian organization in Afghanistan told me since January 2022, roughly 13,000 newborns have died from malnutrition and hunger-related diseases. 95% of the population do not have enough to eat, and 3.5 million children need nutritional support. The United Nations has called the situation a food insecurity and malnutrition crisis of unparalleled proportions. Half of those we admit for critical care are also malnourished. A doctor with Medicines Sans Frontiers reported almost 800 children in one hospital in Helmand province are there because of acute malnutrition. While many countries have pledged humanitarian aid, Afghanistan also urgently needs a functioning banking system to address the crisis. Most Afghan banks are barely operating now. In recent weeks, the United States and World Bank have unlocked billions of dollars in assistance, but restrictions on Afghanistan's central bank are still making large transactions or withdrawals impossible. Aid groups delivering humanitarian assistance say they are unable to move funds into Afghanistan because international banks remain very wary of pre-existing sanctions on the Taliban, and Afghan banks limit cash withdrawals due to currency shortages. Aid groups say the payments to Afghanistan are routinely blocked by banks wary of running afoul sanctions. Instead, most groups use the informal hawala system to transfer funds, even though the service charges can range from 4 to 8% in cities or as much as 13% in remote areas. Before the Taliban takeover in August 2021, rates were at about 2%. The Ministry of Public Health on Monday expressed alarm over the infant mortality rate across Afghanistan, citing estimates that nearly 13,700 newborn babies and 26 mothers have died since the beginning of 2022 in the country. Jawid Hazar, spokesman of the Ministry of Public Health, said that the economic-related causes like poverty and poor diet are among the reasons for which children and mothers die during childbirth. And he says, we had around 124,800 premature childbirths so far since the beginning of 2022. Normally, 10% of these children die, so as an estimate, 13,700 of these children died, said Jawid Hazar. Wow. What a very grim situation the Afghani people are currently facing. And the reason why I find this so astounding is because of what's currently going on across US media. When you turn on your news, when you turn on your TV and you watch the news, what are you currently being stuffed with? The situation in Ukraine. Now, what I'm not gonna do is compare those two situations and say that one is worse than the other and these people are more deserving of this. I don't want to get into that. But it's amazing, isn't it, to witness how victims of our government are treated versus the victims of a government who we deem to be an enemy. It's the classic propaganda model of Mr. Herman and Mr. Chomsky, this worthy versus unworthy victims. So these 13,000 newborns that have died since January of this new year from malnutrition and hunger-related diseases are essentially unworthy victims of the U.S. government, when the people in Ukraine are extremely worthy victims, worthy of 24-hour coverage all day, every day. They deserve our most intense of empathies and sincerities. And the people of Afghan, I mean, how many people even know about this statistic in America? How many people even know that this is going on? And allow me to explain to you just very briefly how we got to this. So we essentially set the Middle East on fire. We bombed and exterminated the population in Afghanistan for 20 years. Okay? We had the exit of Afghanistan. It was a tumultuous exit. Exits from war are usually tumultuous. And so after we exited, the Taliban took over. It turns out that the propped up government from the US didn't hold out very long. And so the Taliban took over. We didn't like it, and we sanctioned them to the high heavens. And we froze all their money and assets. As I read in that article, we destabilized their central bank, and they're unable to make really big transactions and acquire the money that they need to really take care of these people and these children and these just individuals that are suffering. I mean, what did I read there? 95% of the population does not have enough to eat. 3.5 million children need nutritional. Are you kidding me? And nobody wants to discuss this. Nobody wants to discuss because the U.S. government is actively playing a big hand in this. Is why it's not being discussed. It's similar to the situation in Yemen. Our client, Saudi Arabia, is decimating the people of Yemen, starving them to death, and it won't be discussed and no action will be taken on it simply because we play a part in promoting it. I mean, it's the classic unworthy versus worthy victims, and it's shameful. It's completely shameful on the part of the U.S. government for continuing to allow this to happen. I remember the story that came out relatively recently of Joe Biden saying that he was going to take half of the Afghan money and give it to 9/11 victims or families of 9/11 victims. I mean, words can't describe the insidiousness, the evilness, the cruelty of the actions of the U.S. government. I mean, something should be done about this. Needless to say, something should be done about this. This is probably the most immediate crisis that we're seeing in the world right now, and the U.S. is playing a direct hand in promoting it, and nothing is being done about it. And you can pretty much guess why.